Hello everybody and welcome to the Real Housewives Edit. My name is Elle and I'm here to talk about the two loves of my life, editing and housewives. Well you guys, I am here to cover the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, the most recent episode. I can't say that this is my favorite season of the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, mainly because of kind of all the friend of drama. I don't know, it seems to be missing something that I'm really wanting. I don't know about you guys, I would love to hear it in the comments below. It doesn't mean that I'm not watching every single frame, every single episode the minute it comes out. I'm still so excited and I support this franchise so much, but I'm not as crazy about the season, which is totally fine. But what I am crazy about is the editing in the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. The editing is such a different animal in each city, and one day I will have the time and fortitude to break down the different editing styles of each city. Although it's very minor details, I think it would be really fun to break that down with you guys. Let's just jump right into this little mini episode that I'm going to do for you guys. Okay, so one thing that they're doing, I would say the tone of this music, if I was to categorize it, feels hopeful, feels like morning time, feels almost like inspirational, feels light, feels fresh. The establishing shots they're showing are of the city of Salt Lake City, welcome to Salt Lake City. Everything's very new, fresh, light, and bright. And then they have the establishing shot of Jen's house. And now what's interesting to check in with is usually when we come up on an establishing shot of a house, we get the little chyron with the lady's name and them doing their little spin in the lower left-hand corner just to tell us kind of where we are. But you can see that in this one, they don't do that. And they do that on purpose because they're gonna bring it in later and we'll watch that. Okay, so what was cool was once we're in Jen's bathroom, why they didn't do the chyron of the lady spinning and posing and smiling with that is because they wanted to put this chyron telling us how many months until Jen's trial, which really sets the stage for what we're about to watch. Why do they talk about, how many months to her trial? Because they want to put something in us that makes us think like, oh, there's a time clock on here. We're looking at someone who wakes up every single day with a clock on their back. And that's exactly what we're about to get even further into with the episode. When she's putting in her contact, she kind of dips her head down to put her contact in, and we hear the music really change. It should kind of put a visceral reaction into you guys of like, oof, like almost like a punch in the stomach. It gets darker, it gets heavier. It should be an emotional reaction for you. And then all of a sudden you hear the sirens start to kind of blend in with the music. Okay, and when they're doing this, they're really swelling the sound, right? We have the sirens, we have even more sound and music, and you have sort of like the helicopter sound. All of the music is coming in a swell, and they're doing these flashbacks, which have these transitions that are flashes, really. What they're trying to show is when Jen closes her eyes, these are the types of things that may come up for her. If you have any trauma or you know anyone with trauma, sometimes the memories can come up when you're going to sleep or when you're like sitting at a stoplight when it's kind of quiet, when you close your eyes. These are the kind of things that you hear people say when they're talking about memories that are traumatic. We show these memories that are traumatic for Jen, and then when we come out of it, all of the sound is pulled out and Jen's eyes open. Almost like she woke up from a dream. If you guys can picture it like in a movie, the character sits up from the bed and they're in a cold sweat, right? Same type of energy. And then they do this almost like a thunder. A really low rumbling, soft, like you could miss it. It's not like this hard stinger, but then the intro with her, smiling and spinning comes in full screen and it kind of goes with this rumble of thunder sound. And then again, to contrast from that low rumble, you get this a gust of wind with a huge transition back to her at the sink. When they're playing with drama and playing with sort of creating drama with flashbacks and things like that, they're gonna play with sound effects, music, lack of music, and obviously imagery. And that's exactly what they're doing here. It's going low, high, boom, gotcha. Low, high, boom, gotcha.
Have you had any contact with your assistant?
What do you say to your fans?
Okay, and then it's also, she's flashing back to her walking down the street, obviously another traumatic moment of what she's dealing with. I'm not just saying like, oh, poor Jen. I'm just saying, yeah, these are probably traumatic things that are going through her head daily. She's a mother who's facing, now, after pleading guilty, she's facing jail time. And maybe at this time she knew that she was guilty and that she had a really rough road to hoe coming up. So there might be just a lot, well, there definitely is a lot going on for her in this moment. And now we're cutting to this drawer.
My whole life, I have dealt with depression. And after my father passed away, I started taking antidepressants to help me get through that period of.
So then they have, her confessional audio kind of going underneath while we see her opening the drawer with the antidepressants in it. And then the music comes in, it's very sentimental, almost like sad melancholy. Even though they may know that she, had pled guilty and that her doing all that, we shouldn't feel sorry for her because she made her bed, now she should lie in it type of thing. But it is still what she's talking about here. It is sad. And, she's talking about her father's death and taking antidepressants and her mental health and things like that. So it is a little bit more of a melancholy tone.
Through that period of my life. And I felt like I got to a good.
And again, she's doing an action. As she's doing that action, that's sort of just like before with the contacts or rubbing her eyes, she's taking a drink. They do this sort of bloom flash transition, flashing back to her at her father's gravesite and then pulling it right back to the present. This is really just to give you guys the feeling like she has continuous thoughts going through her head that plague her of these things that she's gone through.
A good place until I got indicted, and over the last year and a half have gone through a living hell. I'm just tired of people.
Okay, so they have her, taking the antidepressant. Then there's this really strong push-in with the camera, and the music kind of goes with that push-in.
I'm just tired of people.
I don't know if they did that push-in in editorial afterward, but to me, it looks more of like a practical push-in, like a camera person moving the lens so it goes closer to her face. And then they transition to another flashback. The reason I want to talk to you guys about this scene, I'm sure you guys watched it. If you've been watching my channel, I'm sure you broke down this episode or this scene yourself as you were watching it. There's just so many like editing things in here. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because I was watching it and I was like, I know whichever editor did this sequence and showed it to, the lead editor or whoever is kind of overseeing, they were like, oh my gosh, you did so amazing at that. Because unless I'm wrong, someone's going to correct me who's actually worked behind the scenes on these shows before, but that confessional, they didn't like have her say that confessional so they could intercut it with this footage of her putting her contacts in. I can almost guarantee you they literally just got a camera person showing her taking her antidepressants. They could have talked to her about that footage, in the confessional with her talking about that she takes antidepressants, but they probably had no idea how they were going to actually work it into an episode. And the way they did it with these flashbacks, that is the magic of having a very creative editor who thinks outside of the box, because this could have been a really, frankly, boring scene of her just putting, her contacts in, taking her antidepressants and having this confessional of her talking about it. But instead they made it something that really kind of makes us want to watch and kind of gets us a little bit more invested by using these flashbacks.
I'm just tired of people questioning my innocence.
I understand it, baby.
I want to go to trial.
Yes.
Please, let's get this over with. I'm just taking each day as it comes.
Okay, so they have the flashback of her talking to Coach, which we all know she's proclaiming her innocence, and we all know that didn't last. Then they have this high-pitched sound that goes into a knife sharpening sound.
I'm just taking each day.
And then when she says that last line, it comes in with this really low, like almost like a growl.
As it comes.
I come up with these words because when you're working in editorial and you're doing sound design, preliminary sound design before the real sound editors get into it, you're going through a database of sound effects, and sometimes you literally have to go like, okay, what sound am I looking for? It's kind of like a low, ominous growl, and you literally will search. Some of these databases are like hundreds of thousands of sound effects, and you will search the word like growl, low, rumbling, high-pitched, knife sharpening. You'll come up with these words, and literally people have categorized these things using these words that sound exactly like the sound. So interestingly enough, I'm just thinking in my brain of what I would search for if I was looking for that. But yeah, that sort of like low rumble growl sound comes in, and it's really deep and really dark. And honestly, I think it's a wink to us because we already know that she's pled guilty. Okay, and then as soon as she leaves the bathroom, there's sort of this high-pitched, almost like a violin, pull. And then they cut straight to outside, the clouds rolling in. So that's really it, you guys. I wanted to cover that scene just because of the use of flashbacks and all the sound design and the music and the non-music. It's just such a poignant scene. But if you really look at what they actually had to work with, which is just her putting in her contacts, taking her antidepressants, and leaving the bathroom, and a little bit of confessional, you can really see that the magic of editing made that scene so powerful and something that you can open an episode with and really have people still want to watch. Thank you guys so much for watching, subscribing, and all of the things. And until next time.